tracing.
Welcome back, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Greetings and Sukhi Hontu to all of you. My name is Jared, and I'll be with 14 other Buddhist organizations on Facebook Live. So before we start our session, let us join our palms together and chant the puja. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranang gacchami, Dhammam saranang gacchami, Sangham saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham Saranang Gacchami. Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Kamesu Michachara Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Surameraya Manja Pamadatana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Imani Pancha Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I believe Dr. Punna is no stranger to most of us, but for the newcomers, here's a brief introduction of who is Dr. Punna. Dr. Punna is an associate professor in internal medicine with Monash Clinical School in Johor Bahru campus. He has been sharing the Dhamma regularly in Malaysia, Singapore, and Jakarta for the past 2 decades. In today's session, Dr. Punna will be sharing on a topic called One Teaching. So here's a question. If someone were to ask you, what makes Buddha's teaching so special that it has made you into a Buddhist? And how has Buddhism changed your daily life? Dr. Punna, maybe you could shine some knowledge in answering these questions. Over to you, Dr. Punna.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you to the committee behind this who worked so hard such that everything runs smoothly. It always amazes me at the fury of activity that occurs 10-15 minutes before the start of the program when they are trying to make sure everything is fixed up. Sadhu to them. And let me say, this program would not be successful without the backroom boys, and very often they are nameless and faceless. Let me begin by sharing my screen. Please allow me to share my screen. All right. Now, one teaching, and if we are to look at the Buddha Dhamma, you will see lots and lots of suttas, almost 20,000 of them. But whether it is in the Theravada tradition, the Mahayana tradition, or the Vajrayana tradition, there is a common core which runs through all the three traditions. And while its expression and its emphasis may differ from tradition to tradition, the core wisdom remains the same. So if you look at the Pali Canon, for example, or at the Mahayana Agama Canon, the expression 84,000 is very often used. In Chinese, 8万4千, and even in the Pali Canon, you will see this expression 84,000. And in the Theragatha, the Venerable Ananda said that there are 82,000 teachings taught by the Buddha personally, and 2,000 teachings taught by his disciples. But if you are to look at these 84,000 Dhamma teachings, they all share a common central core. 8 for the Eightfold Path, 4 for the Four Noble Truths, and the 3 zeros, the 3 universal characteristics of impermanence, anicca, unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, and not self, anatta. So whether it is in the Pali Canon or in the Mahayana Agamas, what you will find is the Pa Zhen Tao, the Eightfold Path, Si Shen Di, the Four Noble Truths, and the San Famen, the 3 universal characteristics of the Dhamma. And this is important because this is common. It rides across all our traditions, across language, and this is a very interesting book that I read some years ago. It is written by a venerable in the Vajrayana tradition, and it says, what makes you not a Buddhist? Not a Buddhist. And he relates that it could be him, it could be you, it could be me. And if you're on a long haul flight, pre-COVID days, to London, for example, where you're trapped for 13 hours inside a plane, and the person sitting next to you realized that you're a Buddhist because he saw you reading, for example, the Dhammapada during the long flight. And so he asks you, what is it in the Buddhist tradition or the Buddhist teachings that makes you want to be a Buddhist? Well, you may put it the other way and say, maybe it's easier for me to ask you back, what makes you not a Buddhist? What makes you different from me? And I found this the most interesting book. I read it carefully and it was very thought-provoking because it was phrased the other way. Most people will be talking about what makes you a Buddhist. Here he says, what makes you not a Buddhist? And so here, of course, he spoke on the things which are common to all the lineages of Buddhism. The Eightfold Path is how we live our life. The Four Noble Truths are very profound. But it is the 3 universal characteristics that the Buddha taught in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. And universal characteristics literally mean anything on this earth, in space, in anywhere, that is a conditioned thing, and all of us are conditioned things. They will have the characteristics of impermanence, wu-tang, unsatisfactoriness, ku, and non-self, or not self, wu. Now, if you understand these, you will understand how this leads to the Four Noble Truths. It is because of the impermanent or unstable character or nature of all compound things that leads to its unsatisfactoriness or its unreliability or its instability. And this is because they are all not self. They are all compound things. If anything within it changes, the entire thing changes. This, if you understand, will lead you to understand the first noble truth of dukkha and the second noble truth of why you create so much dukkha, because you are going against this universal characteristic. Okay? And the third noble truth, that if you understand and apply these characteristics, you will cut down your suffering. And of course, the fourth noble truth, that graduated path, step by step, for you to achieve it. So the three universal characteristics are extremely important because it is in its application into every aspect of our lives that makes us uniquely Buddhist. And the Buddha himself said that while other teachers of other traditions and lineages with insight and wisdom may understand impermanence, a physicist, for example, will easily understand impermanence. He looks at the laws of thermodynamics and he sees that everything is a flux, impermanence. Any physicist or biologist will also be able to tell you unsatisfactoriness or instability or unreliability because of its nature of change. And any one of those teachers clearly understanding these two can talk along the same lines as I am sharing with regards to anicca and dukkha. But the Buddha said anatta, or not self, is truly something unique to his dispensation, because the others will not understand this. So coming back, if you are on a plane now and you are asked, what makes you a Buddhist? How do you apply that information? It is your application of these knowledge and your understanding of the universal characteristics in every aspect of your life that makes you different. And because you understand this, you do not go against it, especially as you approach the understanding of anatta and not self. Then the third noble truth comes in. You do not cling so much, you do not attach so much, and you have less cause for the suffering that we create for ourselves. Now, this is so important that the Buddha's very last words before he passed on also talks about this. Appamadena sampadeta. All conditioned things are impermanent. With that, appamadena sampadeta. All conditioned things are impermanent. Appamadena sampadeta. Please, if you can see this, all conditioned things being impermanent, you will not hesitate to work out your own salvation with diligence. So you can understand that this aspect, its insight into the understanding of anicca is truly important. Because if you understand this, apply it, then your dukkha will be less and less and less. Because you simply cannot attach into a thing which is always changing, unstable, and unreliable. And the Buddha said it very clearly in the Dhammapada verse, in Dhammapada 277, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Now, many practices of meditation spend great emphasis trying to get the yogi or meditator to realize impermanence. As you sit and look with a calm mind, you will see impermanence everywhere, in your body, in your mind, in your surroundings. This is to help us develop insight. And when we can see this, you will realize that it is no point grasping onto something which cannot be grasped. With that wisdom arising, you can turn away from the causes of suffering and hence activate the second and third noble truth and have less suffering. For example, if you are to look at this picture, and I would ask you, who is Dr. Wong? Is it this? Is this? Or is it this? Who is Dr. Wong? This was in the past, long distant past. This was 3 decades ago. And this is just last week. So which of this is the Dr. Wong? Now, all of them are Dr. Wong. But there is no one which is also Dr. Wong. Because Dr. Wong is a process, an activity that went from here to here to here, and from here will continue to proceed. So while all of them is Dr. Wong, there is no one which is Dr. Wong in a concrete, unchanging state, as is obvious in these photographs. So can he grasp onto this? No, because this will inevitably change. Can he grasp into this relatively handsome man with a head full of black hair and moan and groan when he loses it? No, he can't, because that's inevitable. And he has become this. So while he can moan and groan and say, oh, what has happened to all this? He can look at it in another aspect and say, this is not an entity. This is an activity which has ceaseless change, ceaseless impermanence. And if I grasp onto it, I will activate the second noble truth and give rise to dukkha. If I accept this nice round potahit and I say, I'm one of the few blessed people to be able to have this nice round botak head, this white gray hair, you look at it completely differently. And aging, decay is no longer so frightening. The same with this. Who is Mrs. Wong? This cartoon or this lady? Well, both are Mrs. Wong. But this is a process which is inevitable. So if Dr. Wong grasps onto this Mrs. Wong, he is going to create conditions for suffering, because this Mrs. Wong here cannot be grasped. This Mrs. Wong is not an entity that you can go on to, but an activity which will inexorably become this. So if this Dr. Wong or this Dr. Wong accepts this, fine, no issue. But if he grasps onto this, then he is going to create conditions whereby everybody suffers. So the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh put it very, very well. There are many people who say that that boy in the photograph, who is a very young Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and this old man with a massive stroke, now can't even speak, is the same. And he asked, if that boy is the same, why does this boy look so different from this elderly man? Remember, the Buddha taught us, you are only an activity of rupa and nama, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. You are just an activity of these 5 aggregates, which is endlessly flowing forward and in the past. So even if you recall a past life, you're not recalling an entity. You're recalling the activities that took part in a past life. And all of these have changed since this photograph has been taken. And your understanding as a Dhamma brother and sister, as a student of the Buddha Dhamma, is that this is an activity endlessly going on. And you are now with the insight of the fact that it is a continuation, like the rain is the continuation of the cloud. When you look at this photograph, in this photograph is already the potential of an old man. And in this photograph of an old man who is getting ready for his transit, he put it very well. He says he is getting ready for his transit. Like you and I in a transit lounge in an airport, he is getting ready for transit. Within this, you will see a young baby, a young man again. Unless he is fully awakened and has no conditions for continuation or recycling. I hope this is clear, because this is a very important fundamental understanding. And one of the most beloved of Mahayana teachings, the Heart Sutra, the Xing, in its very first line, it talks about 观自在菩萨行胜般若波罗蜜陀事照见五蕴皆空. You can see that the 5 khandhas, the rupanama, the 5 aggregates that I just spoke about, is empty. 照见五蕴皆空. They are empty. There is no concrete structure, no unchanging entity, but it is a flux of activity. When Sister Eileen can see 五蕴皆空, Sister Eileen will 度一切苦. So this is in the very first line of the Heart Sutra. The very first line in this walk towards happiness and the end of suffering is that we must see impermanence. When you see impermanence, you will realize how grasping onto impermanence, grasping onto things which cannot be grasped, will give rise to the causes for suffering. And you realize that your 5 khandhas is just an activity. Look at yourself in meditation. Everything is an endless activity. All that you see is a ceaseless flow, whether of thoughts, of bodily aches and pains, or of changes. And they are all empty of anything concrete. So when you can see that the 5 khandhas, 五蕴皆空, you convert your dukkha into happiness. 度一切苦. As I said, a common teaching. This is in one of the most important Mahayana sutras, Heart Sutra, and within its 268 words, almost the entire teachings encapsulated within just 268 words. Now, fellow Dhamma brothers and sisters, impermanence is a reality. Impermanence is not good or bad. It just is. Anything which is a conditioned phenomena is impermanent. And so it is not that impermanence which makes us suffer. What makes us suffer is that we insist that it not be impermanent. We insist that it must be permanent. And that is what makes us suffer. Because its very nature, it's instability. And if you insist that it must be stable, then you are going to suffer. And this is a very important teaching. This teaching is taught in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. This teaching is taught in the very first line of the Heart Sutra. And so if you understand 五蕴皆空, that there is nothing in our Rupa Nama which is permanent. It is empty. Then you learn that reality and you adjust to that reality and you stop insisting that things be as you wish it to be. And you lessen the cause for suffering. That's how you 度一切苦厄. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, I will now show you a short clip to further illustrate this very important teaching found in all three traditions, one teaching, all three traditions.
Buddha taught that everything in the physical world, including mental activity and psychological experience, is marked with three characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and egolessness. Thorough examination and awareness of these marks helps us abandon the grasping and clinging that bind us. Suffering, dukkha. The Pali word dukkha is most often translated as suffering, but it also means unsatisfactory or imperfect. Everything material and mental that begins and ends is composed of the 5 skandhas that has not been liberated to nirvana is dukkha. Thus, even beautiful things and pleasant experiences are dukkha. Impermanence, anicca. Impermanence is the fundamental property of everything that is conditioned. All conditioned things are impermanent and are in a constant state of flux. Because all conditioned things are constantly in flux, liberation is possible. Egolessness, anatta. Anatta, anatman in Sanskrit, is also translated as non-self or non-essentiality. This is the teaching that you are not an integral autonomous entity. The individual self, or what we might call the ego, is more correctly thought of as a byproduct of the skandhas.
Now, fellow Dhamma family members, I again repeat, the 3 universal characteristics is neither good nor bad. It just is. It is a character or the nature of all conditioned beings. It is that we wish it to be different. It is just as it is. What in Chinese say, 是这样的了. Whether you like it or not, whether you love it or you hate it, it is 是这样的了. It is like that. It is as it is. But the other thing which is extremely important for you to understand is you must not go away, one, with the misunderstanding that this is negative, because it is infinitely not negative. Because things are impermanent, you and I can change to be better. Because things are impermanent, with education and cultivation, we can transform. If things are permanent, then there is no hope for any one of us, because it would mean that the unwholesome things you had done are going to be permanently there. And you can't change it. So it is neither good nor bad, it just is. And in fact, its nature of impermanence is very good in that now we can change from akusala or unwholesome to kusala or wholesome. It is the very nature that even dukkha is impermanent, that we can all work towards the state of nirvana or nibbana. And it is because of anatta that you can change. If you do not have the ability to change because of an unchanging concrete entity within you, then there is no hope. The Buddha said, if there is an unchanging activity, if karma cannot be changed, then there is no hope. Because if you are bad, you're going to be always bad. If you are good, you're always good. But it is because that you are not concrete and that you can change, that this is good. Because now we can all work to be better. As long as we are better than yesterday, we have done well. The second thing that you must not go away with is to misunderstand the second discourse of Anatta Lakkhana Sutta and think that you do not exist because of the three universal characteristics. No, 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 dear Dhamma brothers and sisters. You exist. The only thing is that you do not exist as a solid block of an unchanging structure. You are not a wood block. You are always changing. You remember you are a flux of Rupa Nama. The Nama Rupa or Rupa Nama is an activity that is continuously moving, changing. You are not a block that is unchanging. Hence, do not go away with the misconception that you do not exist. Of course you exist, except you do not exist as an unchanging block of wood. Even a block of wood, for heaven's sake, will change with time. Even a diamond will change with time. Are you aware you can burn a diamond? All right. So a diamond is just a lump of charcoal. You can even burn a diamond. So ladies and gentlemen, Dhamma brothers and sisters, please do not go away with the misconception that you do not exist. Do not go away with the misconception of Kong, oh, because I'm Kong, I do not exist. The Heart Sutra clearly teaches Kong 就是色，色就是空. The two of them are different aspects of each other. Kong tells you you are not a permanent structure, you do not have a concrete, unchanging self, but it doesn't mean that you do not exist. 空就是色，色就是空. The form is empty. Emptiness is form. You exist within emptiness as a flow of energy. You are wrong to think that you do not exist. You do exist, not as a static block, but as a flow of energy. That's why in the Heart Sutra, 色离子，色不异空，空不异色，色就是空，空就是色. The line is repeated in an emphasis to make sure you and I do not have this misunderstanding. I repeat, 色离子, O Sariputta, 色就是空，空就是色. This is an important concept that you must remember. So let us take a look at this little cartoon.
一切皆空。
铁舟到处参访名师。一天，他来到相国寺见独圆和尚。为了表示他的悟境，他十分得意。
心佛以及众生，三者皆是空。现象的真性是空，无物、无迷、无胜、无烦、无失、无受。哎呦，干嘛打我啊？
一切皆空，哪儿来的这么大的脾气啊？
无善无恶，不受苦乐，一切皆空。连这一句都不足以外人道，铁舟拥有的不过是口头禅罢。
Now in this Chan teaching, it is trying to illustrate what I tried to share. Here you have a young venerable visiting a respected senior master. And he showed off his Dhamma knowledge in front of the master by declaring, oh, everything is empty. There is no I, there is no this, there is no that. All is emptiness. What the great master did to teach him was to take that knocker and knock his head and ask him, if everything is empty, from where did all your anger arise when he grew very angry? So please remember, Dhamma family, what I tried to share, that while you have the three characteristics of impermanence, unreliability or dissatisfaction, and not self, you exist as a flow, like a river that is constantly flowing. There is no river that you can hold in your hand, because the instant you step into a river, the water has already flowed further down. So you exist as a flow, and do not run away with the misconception that anicca, dukkha, anatta means you do not exist. You and I, very clearly illustrated in this Chan teaching, exist as a flow. You're not something concrete like a block of wood, but you do exist. Let us take a look at this. This illustrates it so beautifully and so well. I use a river. Here they are talking about waves. So if you understand the Dhamma, if you understand anicca, dukkha, anatta, if you understand impermanence or instability, if you understand dukkha, unreliability, dissatisfaction, and you understand not self, because everything is continuously flowing on and changing, then you will not grasp onto what cannot be grasped and do not hold or create conditions for suffering. People, position, power, titles are all impermanent. If you can understand this, the Buddha's teachings, then you can apply these teachings to go with the flow, so that the universal characteristics flow along with you and you do not create suffering for yourself. As I said, go with the flow. Rejoice that you have the time to age, to be botak, to have white hair. Now, one of the very common complaints in my past life as a doctor for many years is that you have an elderly lady coming in, quite unhappy because the daughter-in-law is not the same as what she was when she was a daughter-in-law 50 years ago. A lot of complaints. And I used to tell them that you will never be able to find a daughter-in-law that is like you, because times have changed. Education has changed. Culture has shifted. Priorities have changed. And the list goes on and on. If you expect that your daughter-in-law must be like what you were 50 years ago, you are going to be very, very distressed, upset, and in pain. Because she will never be like that. Rather rejoice that you have a daughter-in-law, rejoice that she's doing what she's doing, and go with the flow. Now, Brother Dr. Wu is an ardent student of Mandarin. The Chinese word for Dhamma, Fa, has 3 dots of water on the left side, and on the right side, the word to go out. Literally, if you understand the Dhamma and apply that Dhamma, you are like this water that we just saw here, flowing in between the rocks, moving on top of the rocks, along the path of least resistance. It's a beautifully chosen expression. When we understand the Dhamma, we do not go against anicca. We do not go against anatta, but we go with it. We create less and less causes for our suffering. If you insist that things must be like that, then the characteristic of anatta is going to affect you very badly, because you will learn very bitterly that nothing is within our control. The three universal characteristics, especially anatta, will look at you in the face and make you realize that you cannot control it. How many of us 2.5 years ago will realize that our lives will be completely changed by the COVID-19 pandemic? Everything has changed beyond recognition. Anatta, anicca, and dukkha. Now, a lot of people are very attached to the body. In fact, it's one of the most common attachments. And if you cannot let go and you insist, then you are going to be in trouble. And I like this this short little clip.
If you eat healthy, drink lots of water, have a good sleep, and exercise every day, you will still die.
Gago!
Now, that's the absolute truth. Why? Anicca, dukkha, anatta. You think you can control it by doing all those things. In reality, there is actually very little that we can control. We can control to some degree. You can plan to some degree, but many things are beyond our control. The last 1 week has been very emotionally exhausting for me. I'm taking care of a dear Dhamma brother, very dear to many of us in Johor Bahru, who is very ill in his final days. We're doing our very best to make him as comfortable as possible, and his strong foundation in the Dhamma has to be seen for us to believe and to learn, because he has accepted everything so well, planned it to make sure that all the people around him do not suffer, or at least suffer minimally, and did everything by the book, as I told you, plan, give advice for what you will want to be done. So when I saw him yesterday and I asked, what can I do for you that is within my means? Who do you want to meet? Who do you want to see? He told me all the people that he would like to see. And we managed to arrange for them to see him one by one. Who are the venerables you would like to talk to? We managed to video call them one by one. What else do you want? What sort of funeral? He said, Dr. Wong, please do my funeral. Please give the Dhamma talk to my parents, etc., etc. Well prepared. And within the last 1 week, we also have a very dear Dhamma sister diagnosed with cancer, another dear Dhamma brother with very advanced cancer, and the mother-in-law and mother of 2 dear Dhamma friends had a massive stroke. All this news within the last 7 days. One lesson, anicca, dukkha, anatta. As this lady said, you can do all, but realize that our lives can change at the very, very click of a finger. I'm very sure everyone in this group listening in now will know of someone who has died from COVID. That has truly made us realize anicca, dukkha, anatta. I think every family in Malaysia will know of someone who has passed on from COVID, either a relative or a friend. So what is the lesson that we learn from all this? Let's take a look from the Vajrayana tradition.
The word emptiness in Buddhism, emptiness, number one, is not equal to nothingness. is like zero, mathematical zero. And interestingly, both these two concepts, the mathematical concept of zero and the philosophical concept of shunyata, I think both originated in India. So just like the mathematical concept of zero, zero seems to be having no value, but it is the foundation of mathematics. It's because there is a zero, you can have 10, 20, 100, and so on. So similarly, emptiness is not equal to nothingness, but emptiness means empty of independent existence. Now, to make it a little bit more clear, things exist. If things exist, there are only two ways of existence: dependent existence or independent existence. There's no third possibility. These two are mutually exclusive. So now things are dependent on causes, conditions, and so forth. So therefore, there is no independent existence. So that leg of independent existence is called emptiness. So therefore, emptiness and dependent origination are two sides of the same coin. Because of dependent origination, there is no independent existence.
Okay, again, really very beautifully explained by a teacher of the Vajrayana lineage. And as Dhamma practitioners, we apply these principles in our daily life. More before we reach that stage. But it doesn't mean that we should cling on. Because if you and I now cling to everything, you're going to create more and more causes for suffering. You have to realize when is it most appropriate not to cling, when it is most appropriate to let go. So whether it is in the Theravada tradition, when we talk about the upadanas, the attachments, all right, or you talk about in the Mahayana tradition, kong, to let go, we are still looking at the very fundamental teaching so well realized by the Buddha for us to apply. Let us look at what our late Chief Venerable
we have maturity, we have sense of reasoning in our mind, without misusing, abusing, without following anything blindly. Use your common sense, my dear friend. Not necessary to have religious label. Whether we are Buddhists or Christians or Hindus or Muslims, those labels are not important. Religion is not in their labels. That is why the whole world today is a battlefield because of religion. Religious label, not religious principles. I want to introduce my religion, egoism. My religion, our religion, but not religion. Two religions introduce the same principles, but one religion tried to convert this into the other religion. But the same principle, two labels. So they are fighting for this label. They bring religion into the battlefield to justify, oh, it is our religion. They have polluted completely purity of religion. They try to show worshipping, praying so many times a day they are religious. But their cruelty, anger, jealousy, grudge and ill will, enmity, all the evil forces are boiling in their mind. Where is religion? What is the purpose of religion? Religion is for us to train our mind to live peacefully, without harming, without disturbing, developing our, what you call, harmony, understanding, and without violating the environment for others to suffer. If these qualities are not in our religion, there's no point of following any religion. Now there are free thinkers. They never say they are Buddhists or Christians or Muslims or Hindus, no label. But do you think they behave as barbarians? If you observe very carefully, some of them are far better than those so-called religious people who claim they belong to this religion or that religion. By knowing certain things are bad, immoral, harmful, they try not to do. That is understanding. Not because of God, not because of punishment, not because of hell, knowing these things are wrong. Again, they do lot of services for the well-being of others, to release others' sufferings and troubles and problems and difficulties without expecting any reward from God. They have no heaven, no God, no hell, no rebirth, no karma, no soul, nothing. But they live as human beings. So they keep away from bad things. They do lot of good things without using any religious label. Why? Although they do not use any religious labels, they practice religious principles. Without them, we belong to this religion. Religious principles are there. Therefore, not necessary to say we are Buddhists. That word is not important. The Buddha was not a Buddhist. Jesus was not a Christian.
Okay, so I think that's very, very important, and I clicked it. Don't want to get into any trouble by his next statements. But let us realize Buddha is not a Buddhist. The Buddha is a teacher. He's not a Buddhist. The word Buddhist did not even arise until the colonial times when the British ruled Sri Lanka and decided these natives needed a religion and created a word called Buddhism. The Buddha is not a Buddhist. He was a teacher who taught noble principles. But you come down now, in the 1800s that was done, okay, 1900s, and now we're in the 2000s. What has happened? Not only do we see what the late Chief Venerable described, inter-religious strife, we even see within the so-called Buddhist religion, my lineage, my yana, your yana, this yana, that yana. You are not following my yana, please get out. You're following my yana, please welcome. Absolutely tragic. The Buddha would not recognize these practices that we are sadly doing. It is not the label, it is the principle. And these principles are illustrated in the 84000. If in whichever tradition you are professing to practice and you have this 84000 applied to your daily life, you are a Buddhist. You are someone who takes refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. You are someone who takes the 5 precepts. So please remember, fellow Dhamma family, the teaching is common. There may be many variations because of culture and distance, language, but as long as the core teaching, which I've tried to illustrate, is common, then you are doing what the Buddha taught. And so I'm going to ask you now, if I had to ask you a question, if I were to sit in an aeroplane now next to you, and I ask you, what is the heart of the Buddha Dhamma? So now you explain so much to me, and I say, yeah, my brain, my RAM only got 4 gigabyte. It's a Nokia 3010, I can't take so much information. Can I ask you back? Can you just tell me what is the heart of the Buddha's teaching? Well, a Mahayana Buddhist might say the heart of the Buddha's teaching is in the Heart Sutra. Yes, that's true. The very 8400 is in the 84000 is in the Heart Sutra. But can we even summarize it from 268 words to even shorter? And I'm sitting with you next to the plane, and I'm asking you this question now. How will you answer? Take a look at this clip.
เชิญนั่งครับทำความดีค่ะ
เป็นทางสายกลางหรือเปล่าครับ
ก็คือคำสอนของพระพุทธเจ้าทำให้เรามีสติมากขึ้น
ช่วยส่ง
ทุกข์สมุทัยนิโรธมรรคค่ะ
ทำดี
การพ้นทุกข์ใช่ไหมครับ
ผมคิดว่าเป็นการปล่อยวางนะครับผม
ท่านสาธุชนผู้สนใจในธรรมทั้งหลายโอกาสของการบรรยายครั้งเดียวเป็นพิเศษเช่นนี้อาตมามีความเห็นว่าควรได้กล่าวถึงใจความทั้งหมดของพระพุทธศาสนาหลักพุทธศาสนาขั้นมูลฐานนั้นหมายความว่ามันเป็นหลักที่มีจุดมุ่งเฉพาะไปยังความดับทุกข์ถ้าเป็นสิ่งที่ไม่เป็นไปเพื่อดับทุกข์พระพุทธเจ้าท่านทรงปฏิเสธไม่ยอมเกี่ยวข้องด้วยในสูตรที่มีอยู่ในสังยุตตนิกายเล่าเรื่องนี้ไว้ชัดว่าเมื่อกำลังเดินกันอยู่ในป่า พระพุทธเจ้าท่านกำใบไม้ที่เรี่ยราดอยู่ขึ้นมากำมือหนึ่งแล้วถามภิกษุทั้งหลายในที่นั้นว่า
ใบไม้ที่กำขึ้นมานี้กับใบไม้หมดทั้งป่ามันมากน้อยกว่ากันกี่มากน้อย
ทุกคนก็เห็นได้ว่ามันมากกว่ากันมากจนเปรียบกันไม่ไหวพระพุทธเจ้าจึงบอกว่า
เรื่องที่ตรัสรู้และรู้นั้นมันมากเท่ากับใบไม้ทั้งป่าแต่เรื่องจำเป็นที่ควรรู้ควรนำมาสอนและนำมาปฏิบัตินั้นเท่ากับใบไม้กำมือเดียว
สิ่งที่เป็นหัวใจของพุทธศาสนานั้นอาตมาอยากจะแนะถึงประโยคสั้นๆที่มีกล่าวอยู่ว่าสิ่งทั้งปวงไม่ควรยึดมั่นถือมั่นว่าเป็นตัวเราหรือของเราคราวหนึ่งมีคนไปทูลถามพระพุทธเจ้าโดยทูลว่า
พระพุทธวจนะทั้งหมดที่ตรัสถ้าจะสรุปให้สั้นเพียงประโยคเดียวได้หรือไม่
พระพุทธเจ้าท่านว่าได้พระองค์ตรัสว่า
สัพเพธัมมานาลังอภินิเวสายะสิ่งทั้งปวงไม่ควรยึดมั่นถือมั่น
แล้วพระองค์ก็ย้ำลงไปอีกทีหนึ่งว่าถ้าใครได้ฟังความข้อนี้ก็คือได้ฟังทั้งหมดในพระพุทธศาสนาถ้าได้ปฏิบัติข้อนี้ก็คือได้ปฏิบัติทั้งหมดในพระพุทธศาสนาถ้าได้รับผลจากการปฏิบัติข้อนี้ก็คือได้รับผลทั้งหมดในพระพุทธศาสนาสิ่งใดมีความยึดถือหรือถูกยึดถือก็ตามว่าตัวกูว่าของกูแล้วสิ่งนั้นคือตัวทุกข์ในสิ่งใดไม่มีความยึดมั่นถือมั่นว่าตัวกูของกูแล้วสิ่งนั้นไม่มีทุกข์
Dear Dhamma brothers and sisters, that is a very profound discourse given by the late Venerable Buddhadasa, whom I'm sure is quite familiar to many of you here. He was a great reformist venerable in Thailand. He has since, of course, passed away already. All things should not be attached to as I, my, or mine. And that, he said, is the very heart of Buddhist practice, the very heart of what distinguishes you, Helene, Wei Li, Brother Du Sing, Dr. Surya, from someone who is not a Dhamma practitioner. And the reason why the person who is not a Buddhist may ask, why is Dr. Surya so silly? Everything say not I, not mine. Because they do not understand the three universal characteristics and how the three universal characteristics will lead to the Four Noble Truths. But because Dr. Surya understands deeply the three universal characteristics because she understands the laws of thermodynamics, which teaches you the first, anicca, impermanence, and the second, unreliability or instability. And she realizes anatta, not self, nothing permanent or complete. So she will learn not to hold into I, my, and mine what cannot be grasped. And thus, the second noble truth, the cause of dukkha, tanha, the three aspects of tanha, kama tanha, I want this pleasurable thing, it is mine. I want this nice car, it is mine. Bhava tanha, I want to be rich, powerful, with bhava tanha. I do not want to be. All three aspects, the Buddha said, of tanha will only give rise to dukkha. So if you understand the second discourse fully, you understand the Four Noble Truths. Now, does that mean that Buddhists will not be happy then in their everyday life? No, brothers and sisters. In the contrary, when you apply these profound principles into your daily life, you're going to be a very happy person because your attitude has completely changed. And this is what I mean, that as you walk this path, you should be happier day by day by day. If for whatever reason you are not happy, something is not wrong. Sorry, not right. If in association with this, you are unhappy, you know when to let go, when to stand up, when to speak up. Of course, you must speak up. Of course, you must stand up. But then when you are knocking an egg against a rock, you also know when to let go. When things can be changed, you will change it because that's the wise thing to do. When things cannot be changed, you will leave it and accept it. And that is also because that is the right thing to do. And in doing so, you will have happiness. I'm going to show you two final short clips, very short, which explains to you why you will be very, very happy if you apply these teachings and create a mere change in your outlook and attitude.
Head out on the highway, looking for adventure. Be whatever comes our way. Born to be wild.
Mere change of attitude. Look outside, think outside the box. Even a blind man can ride a Harley Davidson. If you just do not see your blindness as a disadvantage and accept the reality. I love this because when I retired, I told my wife I want to buy a Harley Davidson and ride from Johor Bahru all the way to Alostar and Perlis, across the East-West Highway to Kubang Krayan, see my tutis there, and then down the East Coast back to Johor Bahru. My wife, of course, told me I'm out of my mind and quite possibly mad. So what she did was, she got me a Harley Davidson, but it is only this big. Nevertheless, still a change in attitude, and one should be very happy because I must not even be attached to that concept that I must physically ride a big Harley Davidson and go around. Now I've got a small Harley Davidson, so I'm still happy. And I wanted you to learn from this final video why when you realize these principles and apply them, you will be very happy.
Celebration of your blessings is happiness. The more and more I celebrate what I have in life, the manifestation of that is happiness. Man had called for a party and everybody had come and everybody were dancing and there was absolute excitement in the air and nobody knew for what this party was called. He called, so they all came and he looks the happiest person there. And he is enjoying, he is freaking out. So one person took a lot of hesitation and finally went, oh, is there any purpose behind this party? Yeah, you didn't know that? Morning, my Mercedes-Benz met with a very bad accident. And it's completely damaged. Everybody stopped dancing. What? Mercedes-Benz met with an accident, you called for a party. He said, nothing happened to the driver. I was driving. And the man paused for a moment and said, the Mercedes-Benz is gone and with money I will buy 10 more Mercedes-Benz in my lifetime. But if my little finger is gone, nothing happened to the driver. And he told, friends, let's understand whether it is a 60 rupee toy car or a 60 lakh Mercedes-Benz, what money can buy is called a toy. It's only a toy. And you should understand this. Rolls-Royce is a 4 crore toy. Give it rightful place. Then you will enjoy. Otherwise you will not enjoy. Some of these buggers, have you seen? They will not remove the plastic cover from the seat at all. But seat will get dirty. I'm saying I'll give you a better suggestion. You make a plastic cover, cover yourself. Go everywhere inside the plastic cover. It's a toy. The more and more you learn to celebrate what you have in life, it's called happiness. Happiness is celebration of blessings in life.
Dhamma family, I'm sure you enjoyed these few videos because they are really very nice videos. Everything in life that you and I have right now, the very fact that we are still alive in this pandemic is a blessing. Let us celebrate every moment of our life. In the last 1 week, I see so many dear and close people to me fall sick. And then you realize how lucky you are. Why are you not sick? You could easily be the same. Just yesterday evening, a friend phoned me up and said, oh, so-and-so, you know Dr. So-and-so? I say, yeah, of course I know Dr. So-and-so. He just died of COVID-19. Very sad. Anyone. It could be of any one of us here. So we are not. Celebrate. Whether you're driving a Kanchil, or driving an Alza like me, or driving a BMW like some of my friends here, it's a toy. It's just a toy. You got a big toy. I got a small Harley Davidson toy. And with that correct attitude of not holding, grasping, it is me, it is mine, it is I, you can actually be very happy. And my little toy will one day also grow. My little toy is also impermanent. Who knows? Maybe it will grow into a big Harley Davidson. Hopefully, I'm not too old then to drive a Harley Davidson, because all things are impermanent, including my little toy. All things, if you grasp, will create suffering. Venerable Buddha Dasa explained it so beautifully. And all things are an activity in motion. There is no brother Bobby which is static. 3 years from now, we take a photograph of Bobby, I can scarcely recognize him. His hair will be white, or what's left of his hair will be white, etc., etc. Fellow Dhamma brothers and sisters, All three traditions teach this same fundamental teaching. I hope we do not fight, we do not segregate ourselves and divide ourselves even further by saying my yana, your yana. As some of you know, whenever anybody asks, Dr. Wong, which yana are you in? My standard reply is, I follow haha yana. I follow the yana which makes me have less dukkha and more happiness. Thank you. Back to you, Brother Gerald.
Thank you, Dr. Punna, for the wonderful sharing. So now we'll move on to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can drop it down in the comment section. But first, there's a question by Felicia Tai. She says, Dr. Wong, can you please repeat the Chinese word for Dhamma?
Fa. Fa. 三点水，一个出气。Okay, fa. You can easily Google it. On the left side, 3 drops of water. On the right side, going out. Fa. Okay? The word for Dhamma in Chinese is fa. Okay?
Okay, the next question is by Brother Ziyuan Tan. His question is, as I am a lay person, I need a job to earn a living. However, I find that my workplace is unhealthy with backstabbing and gossips. How can I detach from the job where I need to work?
Well, Brother Ziyan, you are not a tree with roots stuck in the ground. Move. The lesson I learned is, remember the big quarrel at Kosambi. 2 groups of monks quarreling at Kosambi. Big bad quarrel. The Buddha was informed of this big bad quarrel at Kosambi. And the Buddha walked all the way to Kosambi to try and make peace between these 2 groups of monks that were quarreling. Do you think it worked? Well, certainly the Buddha didn't fly in with lights coming out and water and fire and all that, because if that has happened, they will all have been frightened. The Buddha walked like you and me. Human being, fully enlightened, but nevertheless, human being, who is not the usual human being with defilements, but a human being with no more defilements. That's why he's no longer called a normal human being, because he is not normal in the sense that we all have ignorance. He does not have ignorance. He is no longer a Puttujana. Now, what happened when he reached there? The 2 group of monks continued their quarrel. They did not even listen to the Buddha. So what did the Buddha do? He walked away. He went to the forest and he spent the retreat, the rains in the forest. So that's an important lesson for us. As I said, 3 things. Speak up, stand up, walk away. We try to change what we can change. Like the Buddha, go there. Speak up. Voice your opinion. If necessary, stand up to emphasize that opinion. But sometimes you're knocking an egg against a rock. When that stage is reached, like the Buddha, walk away. So brother, if you're so unhappy in your workplace, look for another job. Look for a job that has a better working environment. And I would really be happy if within the Dhamma circle, the Dhamma family, actually, those who are in business, those who are in charge of all kinds of investments, etc., form a Dhamma business circle and can support each other, help each other. All right?
Okay, so here's the last question by Brother Ki Hao Ki. Since death is inevitable, why do Buddhists and venerables consulted doctors when fell sick? Death will end suffering, so why consult the doctors? and take medications to extend the suffering?
Well, Dhamma brother Ki is a good friend of mine, wonderful Dhamma brother. Of course, death is inevitable, and he will die one day, for sure. But you and I may not die today. You and I may not die tomorrow. You and I still have duties which we can do. For example, very honestly, my children are all adults, married with their own family, living abroad. I haven't seen them for more than 1.5 years. In fact, now coming to 1 3/4 years. It's only me and my wife here. So if something is to happen to me, and you ask, can you let go and just go on? Yeah, I can let go and just go on. But would you like to go on for another 1 year, 2 years, perhaps? Well, my medical students, someone here in my circle wrote about Dr. Wong being not well and all that when I went for my operations of my eyes and all that. And they say, no, Dr. Wong, please don't fall sick, please don't fall sick. If you fall sick, who is going to teach us? And I think it was Brother Ki who commented, you fellas don't want him to fall sick and go on leave simply because you want him to teach you. Actually, you don't give two hoots whether he's alive or dead. You just do it for a very selfish reason. Well, that is the reality for many things. But if I can say, okay, if I can go on healthily for another 2 3 years, then maybe I can teach for another 2 to 3 years. Would that be good? Well, for some it will be good, for some it may not be good. So do I have the great good karma of meeting a good doctor who can keep me alive? Well, I have good friends who have kept me alive. Now, the doctor Jivaka. Are you aware, Brother Ki, that even the Buddha has a physician called Dr. Jivaka? And Dr. Jivaka was the one who tended his wounds, his backache, etc., etc. So we take care of this human body to go on so that we can use this human body as the vehicle for us to reach enlightenment. Remember, after the Buddha became awakened, he actually considered just passing into Nibbana. He actually considered that. But when he saw the world, and he saw Brother Bobby with little dust in his eyes, Brother Dr. Wu with very little dust in his eyes, Sister Eileen with hardly any dust in the eyes, and he knew that with just a little polishing, these people will be ready. And he taught, not for 4 more days or 4 more years, but a good 4 decades more. All right? 35, he became enlightened. Passed away at 45 years. So, fellow Dhamma brothers and sisters, yes, an awakened being may see that he needs to pass away like a Pacheka Buddha naturally, but there are some who, out of great compassion, may say, I'm the live to teach the Dhamma, to continue helping people to become awakened. So the great blessing of having good doctors nowadays have kept many of us alive, kept many of us in reasonably good health. And those are the things which we can do. What we cannot do is to avoid it indefinitely. So a day will come where we have to face it. And then, yes, we will face it peacefully, letting go. But now we can do something about it. And as long as I can contribute a little bit, this vehicle called my body. Remember, Brother Ki, you need this vehicle called your body to help you gain awakening. All right, I hope that answered this question. Thank you, Gerald. You have done a wonderful job. You can hear the tong tong tong.
Yeah.
That's the time we call it a day.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Until
So before we end this session, let us all rejoice in these merits that we have obtained. Let us recall all the meritorious deeds that we have done. And first, let me share screen. First, let us share our positive energy to Sister Hai Chuan, Sister Syrian, Brother Yotek, Brother Dudley Tay, who are all currently sick. May they be free from physical sufferings, and may they be well and happy. Next, let us dedicate all our merits to those who are dear to us, including our parents, siblings, friends, relatives, medical frontliners, non-medical frontliners, to all the departed relatives and friends, whether neutral or hostile, to all the sensual beings, whether seen or unseen, that may they rejoice in these merits with us. Idam me natinam hotu sukita hontu natayo. Idam me natinam hotu sukita hontu natayo. Idam me natinam hotu sukita hontu natayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, let us make an aspiration. May we meet with the wise who will guide us along the path of Buddha Dhamma, and may we finally attain the perfect state of Nibbana. We would like to thank Dr. Punna for sharing the Dhamma with us today, and also we would also like to thank the technical team for allowing us to have a smooth session today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So before you go, let me make a few announcements. Do tune in to the next Walking in the Buddha's Footprint Series 2 on the 17th of September, where the topic for the day would be Contentment is the Greatest Wealth. It will be on a Friday, 8:30 p.m. Next would be BGF would be hosting a talk on 10 Paths to Happiness by Venerable Yu Deng on the 5th of September, which is on a Sunday, from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Lastly, BGF will also be hosting another talk on Sakyamuni Buddha, first psychologist in human history, and it is by Sister Lo Mi Yen on the 19th of September, 10 to 11:30 a.m. That's it from me. Good night, everybody.